Hello and good morning. Morning, Perrie.
Good morning. Good morning.
This is a great topic this morning, and we both got the memo because this is 50 Shades of Salt and clever colour tips to boost your sale price. So this is a nice, happy, cheery topic. So this is great. So did you know, or do you know, which colours can add the most value to your home and speed up your chances of a sale? It's all down to your colour psychology. Buyers make snap emotional decisions, and we say that time and time again. People are driven by emotions, whether it's from online photos or during a viewing. Color has such a huge impact, and it really does help shape the feelings of space, light, warmth, and then in turn desire. This means that decorating to sell can be a wise investment that pays you back many times over. And the trick is to focus on creating a premium look with that kind of appeal. But Perrie, with that in mind, let's explore it. What would you say?
I think for me, so color psychology is definitely a thing. I think what you need to look at is options for introducing color. So we're going to talk about that and what that looks like for you. Building a base with neutrals as well, because sometimes neutrals are great because then you could add lots of color with the neutrals in your accessorizing. Harnessing earth and also jewel tones, that's
Mhm.
quite a warm thing, isn't it? Framing also your finest features, so feature walls, etc. We'll talk about that. And also primary colours. What are the pros and cons? Because some of them are a bit garish and some of them are lovely. So we're going to talk about that. And by understanding how to work well with colour, you can check where your home is already on point, or if you need to make some tweaks. Maybe you need to do maximum impact. Maybe you need to bring it back a little bit. Maybe you're going all out. But a speedy sale obviously is what you're looking for, and a price obviously that makes you smile. So we're going to look at options for introducing colour and what that looks like. So whether you're planning a complete makeover or maybe it's just something a little smaller scale, a little bit of a tweak here and there are multiple ways that you can really leverage colour in your home. And really get that splash when you hit the market that makes your home irresistible to everybody else. When they see it, they want to come and view it. So that's what we're trying to achieve here. So we're going to start off by looking at wall coverings and what does that look like. So paint a room in a single colour is always a big thing. Liven it up with contrasting tones. So that could be accessorising. Add all over patterns. That always works well as well. If you follow that through into rooms. Or you can also add texture with wallpapers now as well. So that's a good way to get texture if you've got quite a plain room and you're minimalistic perhaps. But go for something that's eye-catching, that's going to be a feature moment when they come into the room, that they're going to come into that room and go, oh, I like that. That's a bit different. So that's a really good way to do it. Furniture and fabrics also is a big thing. So again, if you've gone for neutral on your walls, then you can pick up colours with your sofas, armchairs, of course, or layered textures. There's so many things you can do now, throws, rugs, accessories. So look at all those types of things. So cushions and bedding in your bedroom as well. So maybe a neutral bedroom with a nice splash of colour on the bed is sometimes a good way of just accentuating a bit of warmth into a room. Also look at art and accessories, as I said earlier on. So make your mark with limitless options. Sometimes more is less and sometimes less is more. It depends really on what you've gone for in the walls, doesn't it? Because if you've got multicoloured walls and then you're going to go multicolour accessorising, that can sometimes be a little bit too much for some people. I know it's your taste, but sometimes it's the best just to kind of neutralise it a little bit. So you can do that by limitless options, as I say. So think about prints, think about photos, maybe some nice paintings, some lovely pottery, some metalwork, glassware. Glassware is always a great one because then if you've got a bright room, obviously the light is pinging off that as well. Plants in a room are always a good thing as well. It just feels more natural. People also like to see areas where there's maybe like a reading space where someone can relax. So, a nice area where you can put some nice books, some figurines, but don't go too heavy on the figurines. We don't want too much, but you can add a nice splash with something a bit unusual looking. There's just so much more, isn't there?
Yes, absolutely. Definitely that. And I think that's even for myself, that's where mine is probably more in my accessories in my own home. I'm kind of neutral, but mine is like pops because then as well, those things, and we speak about this, you can then change it with the season. It's easier to change, you
Yeah.
know, colours that way if you do just keep it within your accessories and cushions and blankets.
Absolutely. I'm the opposite. I've gone for kind of neutral walls, but then I've got feature walls that are quite out there. So they do pop, but then my accessories, I pick colours out of those walls to accessorise with, so it all hopefully comes together. So there's different ways that you can do it, you're right, and make it the season of your choice.
Definitely. So then building a base with neutrals perhaps. So if you are about to redecorate with the intention of selling, your goal is to really try and create that inviting, airy and sophisticated backdrop that just makes it easy for buyers to envision it as their future home and envision their belongings and their personal touches in the property. Now, neutrals are a great way to start. There's a wide range of shades and tones, and when we say neutral, it doesn't just need to be a bog standard white or cream. There is different shades and tones, which makes it easily to complement your existing furniture perhaps, and you still have options for that final flourish of those colourful accessories. Obviously we've already mentioned it, but look at choosing paint or wallpaper, perhaps with undertones of yellow, pink, and they're more universally appealing impression, and it gives off that kind of warm, fresh and spacious feel. I've seen a lot recently as well, different painting techniques. A lot of people are doing that colour like drenching, where they actually do it the whole walls and ceiling. I've seen that, but also recently I've just seen all their walls were white, but they had a slightly dropped ceiling with downlighters, but they actually painted the ceiling this kind of grey colour, like a greyish, and they'd done that in the ceiling, but the rest of the walls were white. And say it, you would think, okay, but actually it worked so well in the space. It stopped it feeling so clinical with the white, and it gave it a really cozy feel, and it worked great with the room.
So I've got a client that's done exactly that as well. And what they've done is they've got all the four walls are white, but then what they've done on one of the walls, they've almost done it's like a diagonal shape that they've done in the paint, and then they've carried a little bit into the next wall. So you've got like a little bit of a corner, but it's not actually even from ceiling to floor. And that was quite unique. I hadn't seen that before. And actually the viewings that took place there, nearly every single viewer went, oh, I wouldn't have thought to do that, because it was so unique. It was something different, but it had captured their attention, which at the end of the day is what you want to try and do, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yes, you want to get that click appeal, definitely. And then again, we've mentioned, but layer upon fabrics, whether it be chunky knit throws or perhaps soft linen cushions. Look at rugs as well. It doesn't just need to be, on the sofas. Look at your lower level and think about your flooring, whether it be a natural, woven rug. Think about adding that depth, that texture, and then all of those lovely soft, because then it also helps with the acoustics as well. When you're thinking in a room, not only do you want it to not feel clinical with it being so white and bare, but as well, if you've perhaps got a wooden floor, it's a solid wooden floor, it's nice to have a kind of feature rug in it, and it just softens the space a wee bit. So there's all those different things to think of.
I think that's really important. And I know we're giving all these ideas, but don't be feeling that you have to go out there and spend a lot of money to do this either. You can go to Home Bargains, B&M's, Dunelm, lots of other places, and you can really buy a few little tweaky things that are really going to improve your room at minimal cost, actually. And the long benefit to you is that you're going to attract more buyers. And the more people come through your home, the more chance you're going to get a really competitive offer.
Absolutely. And even something you've mentioned before, Perrie, is something you've done in your own home is actually, you can even just use what you've already got, but look at mixing it from other rooms and just actually changing the location of them.
Yeah, you can swap things around. You know what it's like yourself, you walk into a room and you always see something there, and then I've thought, and then I've gone and put it in a different room, and that's made that room look completely different, and I haven't had to spend anything to do that. So again, sometimes we've got things we don't realize we've got. I know I do it. I've got a tendency. I can go into, it's literally what they say in that Home Bargains bag. I only came in for one thing, and it literally, your trolley is overloaded, isn't it? I do it. So many people do it. Every time I'm in that store, I meet someone I know and they're like overflowing, and they're like, I literally came in for two things. So we are prone to do that. So the chances are actually you might have some good items in your home already that you've forgotten you've got. They're maybe in that spare closet. So, have a little dig around. again, when you're showing a home, you want to declutter a little bit. So when you're decluttering, just think about how you can place other items in different rooms, and it just gives that room a different lease of life.
Definitely. So then as well, think about following through by incorporating natural materials. So you've got your woods, your stone, your marble, slate perhaps, clay, terracotta. And then with that, think about kind of plants and getting some greenery to give that organic appearance and the warmth that comes with that as well. And as well, something that we talk about quite a lot is all of these kind of hints and tips about adding colour doesn't just need to be inside the home. Also great to incorporate this in your garden space and your outdoor space as well. So these tips really do kind of transfer into that. Especially if you go back and watch our spring campaign, that has a lot of hints and tips on that. But definitely think about that and think about being and focus on being tactile, especially with your natural elements, because you can turn every viewing into a calming and seductive experience. Because we always say that we are triggered by all of our senses, not just by what we see, it's what we feel, it's what we smell. We really are driven by that emotion.
100% we are.
That's if you're doing it with neutrals, but what would it be like then, Perrie, if you were kind of doing framing, perhaps?
Yeah, I mean, framing the finest features of your home is always a great thing as well. If you have a really stunning thing, if you go along the East Nuke, for instance, you've got a lot of stained glass windows. So, make that a focal point of the property. If you are in a Victorian property, you've got cornicing, ceiling roses, you've got picture rails, you've got all of these things. So think about how you can frame those. So clever color choices can act as visual cues for people, so it draws them in. And with the art of that contrast as well, you can draw attention to your home's best assets and amplify the character that's in your house on those items that I've spoken about with really no cost, and showcase them to just be something that's unique to your home that they won't get if they go to any other house, because you are competing with other sellers. So you want to make sure that yours stands out. So if you can do that, that's a really strong thing to do. So painting window frames is a big thing. You've got to make sure that they are nice and clean and fresh looking. Skirting boards is a big thing as well for me. Definitely, I don't know about you, but when I go into property, you can tell how well it's been cared for if you go in and those are nice and clean. But actually, I was at a house the other day and they have done white walls, but then what they've done is with their skirting boards and their surrounds, they've done it almost like in an olive colour, and it really, really works well. It's really boosted the room, but it's accentuated the room as well, and actually somehow made the room look bigger, which, again, a little bit of a trick of the eye, but it's a good way to do it. Interior doors are always a big thing as well, so look at those and do they need changing? Or even do they just need a cleaning or a coat of paint, and will that make them stand out? A great way as well is at property yesterday, and they had quite the original doors that have clearly had about 20 layers of paint on it at some point. But it's quite a big thing just now as well to dip and strip doors, isn't it? So actually taking them back to the neutrals and then just varnish them, and then you can get a really funky, nice handle or something. So again, economical to do that. Look at bespoke shelving as well. So when we talked earlier about books, it's a good way to do that, or even your trinkets, your features, your ornaments, things like that. Really good way to have bespoke shelving done. That really gives some good contrasting to your home and to the walls. But it can also accentuate the kind of architectural look of it. Again, it's about a mind trick, isn't it? It's the emotion that we're seeing. And sometimes those little details are the things that we overlook. But if you are going to do those things, don't overload the shelves. I've also been in properties where there's so many books on the shelves that actually you can't hardly see the wall, you don't see the shelf. So this is just about really clever ways of putting things out. And when you're dressing rooms as well, one of the things that I had read about recently, and we've spoken about before actually, is if you are going to then do some shelving, generally people's eyes are drawn more to items if you do them in 3s or 5s or 7s. So do them in odd numbers. It seems to be a good way to kind of lay a shelf out, or if you've got flower pots or whatever way you're going to do them, it's a real good way to accentuate the space, but also not to make it look cluttered. So again, that's just something that to think about. And interestingly enough, I didn't listen to myself, because I actually went and got some lovely little vases with spring daisies in, and I bought 2, and I put them on my windowsill, and I thought, why did I buy 2? Why did I not buy 3? Because actually it looks odd with 2. So fingers crossed when I go back to the stores at the weekend, they've got them. But again, if you've got fireplaces in the property as well, so white marble's a real big standout. It really pops against like darker chimney breasts if you've got the chimney breast there, and black slate as well always looks really great. If you've got log burner and you've got it sitting on a black slate, that's a real big thing, because it really gives that background contrast as well. But it makes that feature really stand out, which is something that your home might have that others don't. So again, you want to make the feature stand out.
When you were talking about log burner, I don't know if you've seen this before, Perrie, but I have only been in one property, and it was a couple of weeks ago in the East Snook, and it's the first time I've seen this, but their log burner was actually beige, and I have never seen a beige log burner.
No, I
And
haven't.
it looked amazing, and that was the first thing I said, and I was like, I have never seen, and they said, you do not understand how hard it was to find that log burner, but it also complemented the paint, like the color of the walls and the exposed brick, like it went perfectly. But that was the one and only time I have seen a kind of beige creamy log burner, and
Yeah,
it
because
worked
generally
so
they're
well.
always black, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
And I think
Yep.
at this time of year as well, because we're obviously in the spring coming into summer, don't be frightened to do something interesting inside your log burner as well. I've seen people put artificial flowers inside them. I've seen people keep their logs in them, but then wrap lights around them so that they can be battery operated and still give off a bit of a glow. Because what you don't want to do is for people to come in and see the log burner and it's completely empty, or the fireplace and it's completely empty, because then actually it looks quite a cold feature, doesn't it? It has the
Yes.
opposite effect of when it's actually lit. I've seen people as well just put candles in them, because you've got the flume, so you can put pillar candles, church candles inside them, and you can just light those so that you've got that bit of a flicker. They still stay fresh as long as you've got your flume open, so they'll not go out. So again, it's just a way of using that as a feature when you're not actually physically needing to use it for its purpose. I think that's a really good tip as well. But I think as well, soft colour zoning is a big part of it. So again, log burners generally are black, aren't they? So you want to soften that up a little bit. So define separate areas with colour as well is always a really good thing, especially if you've got areas of open plan space. I think by painting one section of that, like I was describing earlier with that client who'd kind of done the diagonal across the wall, which I just thought was terrific. You could paint one section in a slightly different tone, adding a striking edge to it, which is what they did. And it honestly, I couldn't believe like how much it lit up what was relatively a neutral room, but it had a really good, perfect effect, which is what you want. But with cool combinations of colour and contrast, you can direct every buyer's focus as well to your home and the unique characteristics that has, making it really a visual and engaging experience for them. And that's what you want, because you're competing against other properties at the moment. So you want your viewing to be memorable, and you want them to always be coming back. You want to disrupt their mind and make them fall in love with your home, basically, don't you?
Definitely.
What other kind of tones can we harness?
Yeah, so there's also jewel tones, and I love the jewel tones. Like a gorgeous emerald green is certainly one of my colours. I love that. Whether it be for an opulent dining room, or maybe like a cozy study, or even if you want to make a kind of funky, glamorous WC downstairs, stop it just being a basic WC and sink, make it, glamorous, why not? And whether it be earth and jewel tones, they kind of give that unique power to evoke kind of specific moods. And some great tips is introducing the grounding embrace of those earth tones, such as your warm terracottas, your muted sage green. It kind of gives that sense of serenity and organic beauty, because they are those earthy tones, and then it really does add to that kind of outdoors in feel. And even just hearing the word warm terracotta just makes me think of, I don't know why, but it makes me think of like the terracotta roofs in his Spanish villa, and that's the kind of thing that runs through my head. And whether it be adding captivating jewel toned richness with your deep blues, your emerald greens. So you've got so many different elegant feature walls that really add that regal feel. And then think about then the accessories that you could do with that, whether it be those kind of velvet cushions, because you do, when you think of these kind of rich kind of jewel tones, you do think kind of velvets and heavy drapes and, you know, really, really luxurious fabrics, glazed ceramics perhaps. So think about all of that. If you are doing your jewel tones, what accessories you can do to complement with that. And then combine the two as well for that dramatic flair. Think deep blue kitchen cabinets against a warm greyish kind of wall, which is funny because we literally have a property that not long brought to market, and they actually have, and if I was to say this to you, you would think, okay, but it works so well. So their kitchen is half greyish cabinets, half kind of a dark, kind of a dark navy blue with marble worktops, but then as well, it has kind of muted neutral pink tiles. And if I was to say all of that, you would think, what? But it actually works perfectly. Like, stunning kitchen, and then they've got gold, so they have a gold tap, gold handles, and it all ties in perfectly. And it's a great big space as well. So having all those colours actually works brilliantly.
But they're all warm colours, aren't they? So they're going to come together, which is great.
Definitely, definitely. So that is a perfect one. Or think about emerald green cushions on a kind of natural linen sofa, or maybe a cream one. But anything emerald green I am drawn to because I love that colour. It's very regal.
It is very regal. Interestingly, I actually have that colour. So I have quite a Victorian bed, which is cream, and it's got a beige material headrest and also footrest. And my cushions are emerald green and my throw is emerald green, and it just brings it alive and it just looks great. Even if I do say so myself, but it does.
Absolutely. No, I can imagine. Absolutely. And it's whether you're adding that intentional luxury to a smaller space, or perhaps a sense of intimacy to a larger room as well, because doing all of that, it makes you then feel I personally think it's almost like a boutique hotel kind of vibe, and it's really upmarket, and you're away somewhere expensive and you're getting, you know, all the treats. Like, it does give off that feel, and it does add that intimacy to a larger room. Whether it be with your earth and your jewel tones, they really can elevate your home style, and again, leave that lasting positive impression, because that is what you want when you have people stepping into your home.
Definitely. And it's just warm and inviting and memorable, as you say, and that's what you're trying to create, isn't it? You want people to feel that they want to be there.
Absolutely. And they want to come back. Yes,
exactly.
Yeah. So then what about primary colours then, Perrie?
Oh, primary colours is one of those tricky ones, isn't it? So there's always pros and cons with it. I think painting an entire room in a primary colour makes for great TV on interior design mastery shows. We've all seen those. However, for me, in terms of getting buyers through the door, they're less, you know, they can be quite polarizing. So I think you want to kind of look at what the pros and cons are doing in regards to what that might look like for you. And a primary palette can be confusing for some people, especially if that flows throughout the whole house. So I think one way of getting the primary colors in there is to do it with art. It's a fantastic way of making bold color statements, but without completely covering a wall. I was at a property the other day and the hallways and everything were white, and then I went to the bedrooms and it was like a deep blue, and the kitchen was a deep green, and it just, the whole house just felt like it was closing in on itself. So, you know, we obviously give constructive recommendations when we're out visiting properties, and for me, definitely that needed to be brightened up. And that's not just a personal taste thing. I was looking at through the eyes of taking a viewer to that property, and it just made the space go like this, and it tunneled, and it didn't look as spacious as it really was. So that's something that you need to be careful of. But you can make bold statements. So you can have neutrals, but then you can add those primary colours, as I say, in big bold artworks. You know, if you want to go with a deep yellow or something like that. From original paintings, you can get large canvases, you can get prints. You know, if you're really in a good mood and you're feeling generous, you can also go to a nice gallery, and again, you can buy some beautiful artworks there. And I've seen that as well, where someone's got, you know, a really big statement color piece with all the different primary colors in it, and it's almost like a ceramic painting, but it's on a neutral wall in a kitchen, where the kitchen may be white and neutral color cabinets, and it really makes it pop. So that's where sometimes primary colors can really work for you.
Wow.
I think as well, for me, a really simple and inexpensive way as well is if you have got photographs up, again, look at getting some coloured frames in your photographs. You know, a lot of people just now are having black and white photos done, aren't they? Because it's just the trend at the moment. But you could easily put some nice coloured frames on them. So again, you've got a pop of colour coming out. Retro-inspired kitchens seem to be a thing at the moment as well, and all the gadgets that people are putting in their kitchens, which I think is a great way to do it. Graphic prints as well, you know, you're seeing neutral colours of cabinets, but then you've got a splashback and it's got a big flower on it and it's really deep in colour and really pops, isn't it? And I think that's a real good way to bring it into a room. For me as well, it's looking at dazzling glassware. You know, you can go to B&M's and Burgers, as we've said earlier, and you can buy some really lovely coloured glassware, maybe a nice big fruit bowl. So again, then you're putting all your different coloured fruits in and that's making that pop. You know, if you had a marble worktop, as you say, something like that sitting there is just a real big feature, isn't it?
Absolutely.
But your eyes are drawn to it, aren't they?
Absolutely. Or even a nice big flower vase with all your flowers in as well. If it's in a more of a neutral space, then that's a great one as well.
Definitely. And I think bathrooms are always tricky because bathrooms sometimes can be spacious, other times they can be quite a small area, aren't they? They're generally the smallest area in a home, so it's kind of tricky to put bold colours in there. But there's a real good way of doing that. You can do that with nice towels. You know, if you've got a nice rack and you're rolling their towels and putting them in, that's nice. Don't hang them over the bath. People don't want to see that. So, you know, you want them nicely folded or you want them rolled as a feature in the bathroom. But again, you could add colour with doing that. I think as well, you can do it with things that are portable. You know, you can put your personal stamp on it, but it might be an item that you've purchased that is for your next home. So, you know, maybe I've seen people say, well, I love that, but I'm going to wait till I get my next house. And I'm like, well, why don't you just buy it now? Because actually it will benefit your current house and it'll make that room in the home look fantastic. And then you're taking it to your next house anyway. So, you know, that investment is always going to be there, but actually it can make or break the difference of how your room might look. So portable things are a real great way of doing that as well. And they can come in various guises. And taking them again with you, then actually there's been no cost, is there? Because you're always going to have it in your new place. But as a bright and cheery welcome to your home, it's hard to resist freshly painted front doors. People definitely want to see that because that curb appeal is the big thing. Vivacious reds are always a nice one. Yellows or blues always look great. Me personally, I prefer red or blue. I wouldn't go yellow door, but you know, they are bouncy and they do stand out. So I think that's a real good way of really making a statement for your curb appeal. And I think as well, if you using primary colours correctly, it can be fabulous in the inspiration that it will give your buyers without really distracting them from your home, which is what you want, because you don't want to distract from all the other nice things that you're trying to put here. Because at the end of the day, whilst we're talking rooms and how to make the rooms look great, the whole purpose of this conversation is for you to be able to sell at home, isn't it?
Yes, definitely.
One of the things we've not spoken about is the fact that we've got all of this colour going on, but actually what are you doing in your garden? You kind of touched very briefly on it earlier, Sophie. But for me, again, what are people doing in their gardens? Because a garden's a big statement piece now for people, isn't it? Certainly, I would say 7 out of 10 buyers for me, when I ask them, what was it that drew you to this house? You've seen the photographs, you've seen the videos. What is it about this house that really appeals to you? And 7 out of 10 times they'll say, I love the space, but in particular the garden. Yes. So the garden area is something as well. Don't forget you want your pop of colour in your garden as well. Even if that garden is a courtyard, it's a terrace, it doesn't need to be a big green space that you have. But if you've got any kind of outside space whatsoever, it's really important to try and liven that as well with a splash of colour, I would say. And you can do that so easily nowadays. You know, if you've got a seating area, you can put a really nice coloured cushion, a nice throw. You get the outside rugs now as well that come in all different colours, all the primaries and all the neutrals. So again, a really good way of doing that. A lot of florals, solar lights in the evening, flowers for hanging around trellises. There's so many ways that you can do it to just make it pop.
I really I've seen recently, like lanterns and then putting pillar candles in lanterns and having them outside as well. I love that. Definitely.
It's a really nice touch, isn't it? So I think when you're looking at your colour, don't forget your garden space, especially the approach to your house. You know, we're talking about the front doors perhaps being painted in a primary colour. But again, you know, have you got pots? Have you got colour? the property that we've got in Milton at the moment is just beautiful. You come to the door, it's a nice blue door, but on each side of the door, they've got blue pots and they've got yellow and pink flowers in them. And just as you approach it, you just think, oh, it's so lovely. It's a kind of country cottage feeling. But again,
Yes.
it's that emotion you've created in someone before they've even stepped over the door. So you've already got them in that positive mindset. So your curb appeal is a really big thing in regards to colour popping as well. Again, I'll be doing it this weekend because it's going to be a nice weekend. Painting fences is a real big plus. If you have a fence and it's really weathered and hasn't been painted for a while, definitely address that, because again, that curb appeal for someone, it shows them instantly before they've even come over your front door that you care for that home and that that home is loved. So again, it's that positive emotion when they pull up outside. There's no weeds on the pavements in front of your property. The fence is nicely painted. You've got pots with plants in. You've maybe got something hanging artificial that looks great. So just keep that thought process in your minds as well, because that's a big factor, because they haven't even entered the house yet.
No.
And some people, rightly or wrongly, will have a viewing and they will approach the house, or they will have a viewing booked for a future date and they will think, do you know what, actually it's the weekend, we're not due to see it till Monday, but we'll just have a wee drive around and see what it's like. They may drive around, see the outside, if it's not been painted, the garden's not tidied, they might turn around and say, actually, that's kind of telling me a lot about the house. I'm not going to even bother going to view it on Monday. So that's something definitely for you to be keeping in mind as well.
It is. It's all about mindset. And I think a big thing and often gets overlooked, especially if you are selling, and it can be done really, really cost effectively, but have something in sight that has the door number, or if you've got a property name, have a little plaque or a number, whether it be on the door, whether you've actually put it on the property. But
yeah,
if there's nothing, if somebody is out looking for your property, granted they'll see the board, but I just think it helps and it looks more inviting if you see a number or a plaque, especially if you've got a property name. It's lovely to see the name on a plaque or on the door somewhere, as well as the little things like clean your doorbell. Does your doorbell even work? But at times you'll go and you'll click and they'll go, oh, his doorbell doesn't work. And I'm like, all right, okay, it's all little things like that. Is your doorbell working? Is it cleaned? The letterbox, a door number or a name, a little plaque, it's all little things.
Yeah, I agree. So my last thought is, if you are preparing to paint, get the colours right. Don't go overboard with it. Remember, you can accessorise. So that's a big thing as well, accessorising. And it just makes it feel refreshed and neutral, your home. So think about that. If you are not sure how to approach it, and perhaps you're on a budget, which lots of people are in today's world, then we've done lots of educational shows about it. You can certainly go to our website and download those. But again, if you're watching this, feel free, even after the show's over, if you're watching it on replay, message us. We're more than happy to help and we can guide you in the right ways.
Definitely. And even if you're watching this and you've got some tips as well of your own, we would love to hear them. So even put them in the comments, any of your top tips.
Ideal. Great. Perfect. Well, that's it from us, and we'll see you on the midweek show.
Yes, have a great weekend.
Take care. Have a good weekend.
Take care. Bye for now.